Can stream hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you. If I can hear you, they can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry, for a minute there, my headset stopped channeling sound, so I got messed up. So this is pretty much what you would expect of a red, yellow, blue Nisekoi build. It splashes blue. You could also build this deck red, blue, green, and you run in place of the yellow Chitoge finisher combo. You could run the 3-2 Madoka, and you could also run the 3-2 heal change Onodera. I've opted not to run the early drop Onodera because I don't like how inconsistent it is. So that's definitely another option that you could consider. So to start off with the blue cards, I run 2 of the blue Brainstorm. On attack, give a character 1,000 power. Second ability is pay 1, rest 2. Brainstorm for each climax, search a key character. So search is key, which is pretty much everything in the deck. Banned in Japanese, but legal in English because of the deck changes. And then this is Global 500 for key. On play, you can discard a card from your hand, salvage a Pendant of Promise. So, really big assist card, Global 500, really great. English did not get the plus 500 in front assist. Play a climax, get 1,000 variants in either the promo or the DVD promo. They made the DVD promo vanilla, so that's not, unfortunately, not an option. This is basically the yellow splash, so that you can get your yellow out. She is typically 3,500 and has hand encore. So usually you can play one of her in Araku, or you can play her in one of the level reverser runners, and she still gets her power and is pretty decent, especially if you throw down a climax. This Marika is a great way to fix hand, especially right before refresh. On play, check top. Either leave it on top or toss it in the waiting room. Her second ability is you can discard a climax from hand to salvage character, which can get you out of some, like, oh, I have like a bunch of climaxes in hand situations. And just also she is nice early play because she can keep your climaxes from going to stock and forcing to have to pay that out too early. For probably one of the most expensive rares in the set, I think it's about $9 or $10, is the level reverser Chitoge that runs to center at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase. So that's all the level zeros. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 zeros. I think there's 4 yellow, 6 red, 6 blue, if I can count and do math. So tried to keep the split pretty even since it is a 3-color deck. At level 1, I've kept it to 2 colors. Arguably, you could go any of the 2 colors at level 1. You could also run yellow and splash in the Chitoge dressed up 1-0 that gets 1,000 if you have a pendant, or 2,000 power if you have a pendant of promise in memory. I chose to keep mine red-blue. So starting off first is we have 3 of the conditional. If there's a pendant of promise in memory, it becomes a level reverser. On play, reveal top. If it's key character, put it in your hand and discard 1 from hand to the waiting room. Honestly, her top check ability isn't that strong in this deck because you are running 4 pendants plus your 8 climaxes, so chances are she's not going to hit a key character, but seeing a climax on top or seeing a pendant on top does give you a chance to do something like Brainstorm or play the 0-0 Marika to react to it. So the top check and knowing your trigger is kind of more of what that card's there for, plus a way to deal with level 1 walls. Deck runs 3 of the plus 500 for each key character, has Clock Encore Kosaki. She is pretty much your main, like, if you need a little bit of power attacker. She's, the deck doesn't hit really great power at level 1. Typically, if you got to deal with a problem, you're going to go for that. But she's a nice way to keep preserve hand and keep an attacker, especially if you, or in some cases, level yourself up to 2 if you want to level yourself up to 2 and your opponent did not. Main core of the level 1 game is the famed climax combo with this Marika. It's a 105k if it reverses his battle opponent, salvage a character. Combos with the gate, which I run 4 of. She typically doesn't hit above 7k with the ideal back row in this deck. Another option that you could run in here is the 1-0 Words of Promise Chitoge assist, which would also help her hit higher power levels, but usually, typically, you run around with the Chitoge and let your opponent send you to 1 first, and then you're able to capitalize on that and refill it at pace. 4 events. 2 blue pendants, 2 red. You could change up this ratio. You could choose to run the yellow pendant in this deck as well, but I use this on defense. You could even run this as 3, one of this, or whatever you'd like. This one also salvages, so it's really great before refresh because you can get extra climaxes stuck out of your hand. All of these go to memory. The pendants going to memory really only matter in this deck for the 1-0 level reverser and the 2-1 game I play, and I have some other options at level 2, so if they don't end up in memory, it's not the end of the world. They typically do, though, so. At level 2, I've got 3 colors going on, so you have to kind of be careful because you have to kind of watch your clock and know which colors. I'm running 6 cards. I'm running 2 of the level assist. I very rarely use her deal myself a damage to salvage a character. I don't usually need the hand or want the extra damage, but it's an option. This one gets 1,000 power for each pen and promise and memory. It's to deal with walls and early drops. On defense, she can actually be kind of crazy because if you play a blue pendant and give her 3,000 power, she also gets an additional 1,000 from that going to memory. So the free fresh doesn't always happen, especially in English, because usually sometimes you've been dealt so much soul damage that you're past the opportunity. But on play, if you have 5 or fewer cards in deck, you can refresh and draw a card. Her second ability is rest. Give a key character 2k. She can tower grade herself or something else. Level 3 is 4 cards. I run 4 of the one Chitoge. I almost said Maiden's Heart. She has a change, but the change is pretty costly, and I don't care to run it because it usually decompresses the deck too much. That was just what I found. Some people may like it. It's a 3-2 on play, draw 2, ditch 1, which is really great because it gives you a chance to draw into her climax combo. And when she attacks and the climax diary is out, she gets 3,000 power for the turn, and if damage dealt by this card is canceled, deal an additional damage. So honestly, on my field, she can hit 17k. It's not going to get over Titan Walls in English or Devil Hamara, but it's going to get over most stuff, and is pretty cool. The Punish Burn is kind of the finish in this deck, so usually as many of these. Also, her draw 2, ditch 1 mills through the deck, which sometimes allows me to get off a second free fresh or something. I run 2 of this Chitoge, Deep in Friendship. She has the ability to pay 1, rest 2. She gets 2,000 power for the turn, and if she reverses her battle opponent, send it to top of deck. She also is a heal on play, so she's the heal spot, and she also gets rid of problems on the field, like if you're playing against Kill la Kill Ryoko, that can potentially burn and or has a zombie effect. I kind of run her if there's something that just has to get off the field. She's kind of my second go-to. She is a heal, so that's also not bad. She can also combo really well with this because she this card top decks something, and then this gives her damage a better chance of sticking, which you do want some of that damage to stick because just 1 Punish Burn usually most time isn't going to finish the game. So like I said, there's a lot of different options that could be in this deck that are not in here, but
channel, assuming I remember to do that, so remind me. Okay, so Ragnaron64 here at the Card Academy shop. Looks like everybody's doing deck profiles, so here we go. This is a profile of a deck that I didn't actually fully remember building, but apparently did, so we'll just roll with it. It's primarily green, blue, splash red, but the red is just there to be there. Alright, so level 1, we have the good old Saika looks up to Saika looks up to mommy. Great card for top checking and for hand filtering. Running this as a 4 of. Lovely level 0. There's no reason not to run this as a 4 of. You don't really need it for a beat or anything. Since I'm running the apples combo, you've got next your 4 of. Kyoko shares apples. Gives 1,000 to the vanilla Saika. To global to the vanilla Saika, and it bonds to the vanilla Saika, so very nice. I went ahead in this build, and some of my box promos I went ahead and included in this build. So the 1 box promo I got here of the Chibi Homura, this one, if it's in front row, I believe it gets 1,000 power and a level. if it's alone in front row. So it's useful in that you can still put your Brainstormer behind it, maybe one of these Kyokos if you needed to pull a Psyche out early, and she still has power. Just running as a one-of because that's all of this that I own. Additionally, I'm running 2 of these Chibi Madokas. They're 3/5s. Their demerit is that you mill the top card of your deck when they come into play. If it's a climax, you send it to stock, which I think is a great demerit because, one, I always love having stock in my decks, and because I'm running a set of 4 of the Cycle Looks Up to Mommy, I can top check before I put this into play to know if I'm going to hit a climax or not. There's sometimes late game where I actually do want to hit a climax with this because you end up milling that out, putting that into your waiting room if you're before a refresh, and you get stock for maybe playing a level 2 that you might need. Pulled these 2 from another deck. I have a few on order, but the good old Homura Brainstorm, Rest 2, Rest 2, Flip over 4 for every climax you hit, Search. So it's a hand plus, the only hand plus Brainstorm that Madoka has. Pretty much essential in like every deck. This is one that I have teched in afterward because what did this take the place of? This took the place of something that I wasn't using, and I can't remember. But in any case, this is a common Madoka. I can't remember the specific name of it. It's number 45 from the second set. What this has here, I put it in here for additional consistency since I don't have salvage in this, and I want to sometimes ensure that I get my Brainstormer into hand. So what this has here, it's only 1k power, but when it goes from stage to waiting room, you can pay 2 search. So it pluses, well, it ends up you're able to grab what you need to hand. So usually I'm going to be using that to search out one of my Brainstormers so I can mill through my deck, or if it's a real emergency, I can search out either a Kyoko to be able to pull out a Sayaka so I can have attackers. So that's level 0. My level 1 game, pretty standard. We've got your 4 vanilla Sayakas, 5/5 base. For every one of the Kyoko shares apples, they gain 1k power. So if you get 2 of those in back row, you're rolling with 7/5 Sayakas as 1/0, not bad. I'm running 2 of here the 1/1 Sayaka from the second set. This one here has a couple abilities. First ability is that it has Clock Encore, so that's good. Second ability is an interesting one. When it allows you, I believe it's a startup ability, yeah. You can discard a climax from hand, it gains 1k power, and then on reverse, you get to draw a card. So you get to filter climaxes out of your hand, give it additional power, and then replace what you just lost from hand. Next important thing here is the good old 1/0 stock charge combo Madokas. These, they're not as essential as the Sayakas, but they are very useful in that if you can just get 1-2 off at level 1, they have the ability, they combo with the stock soul. So you're already taking something from your waiting room, probably one of these, charging your stock. Then they gain 3/5 power, so they come up to 8/5. And when they reverse their opponent, you blind stock top. So there is risk in blind stalking. So you usually want to use these as your last attacker. If you have just 1 out, use that as your last attack. If you have 2 out, attack with whatever else beforehand, then attack with that. The danger, well, we'll actually get into that. It's not quite as dangerous as it might seem. So, level 2 game, 4 of the Sayaka's Wish. Great event. It's a counter that, if you aren't aware of it, what happens here, you play this as a counter, or you can play it as an event. You pay 1, you take a Sayaka that's on board, put it into waiting room, put this in a memory, and then you pick up the top of your clock to hand. So it heals you, tosses Sayaka into your waiting room, goes to memory so it doesn't refresh in and helps to compress. So, great event. If you're running a Sayaka-centric deck, you're going to want to run these from the first set. Next up, I am running 3 of this changer. This is a what was I saying here? Okay, sorry, lost my train of thought. Okay, this here, it's a changer with shift. Really great card, I feel. It gives 1,500 in front, so it's not dependent on level to give a 1,500 power. And it has a change where before draw, you send it to waiting room and you change into the level 3 Homura. There was some discussion on a stream, in the stream chat, I believe it was yesterday on my stream, that someone preferred the level assist Madoka to this one because they both end up giving 1,500 to your clock kickers. The reason why I like this is because since it just gives 1,500 in front, if you have one of these in back row and you're going from level 1 to level 2 and you had, say, 2 of these Kyokos, what you can do, move one of your Kyokos up, put one in the back, and then you have 2 Sayakas out here. So they're still gaining the plus 2k, so 7.5, and now they're getting 1,500, so 7.5, 8, 9k for 2 of your attackers here. Again, 109Ks, and then this is just here to either side with or attack with if you don't care what happens after that. So that's one of the main reasons why I prefer running this. Additionally, it has shift, so by the time you hit, when you hit level 2, and if you haven't already either searched this out or drawn into it, by the time you hit level 2, you may actually just be able to shift it into your hand from clock. So, a lot of ways that you can be guaranteed to get it. I run 2 of the anti-change backup. This is the only backup in this build that actually gives power, and it also has an anti-change effect wherein you pay 1 for its regular backup. It's a 2/5 backup. Then you pay an additional 2, send something from waiting room or from your field to waiting room, and then if your opponent has yeah, that's true. You could also clock it, then shift it out. What was I saying? And that's with reference to the Homura. But with regards to Kyoko, you pay the 2, send something on your field to waiting room, and then if your opponent has character on their board that is a higher level than their level, you send that character to waiting room. Instantly kills the Titan combo and gets rid of a lot of pesky early play level 3s. And since it's just a counter, you don't have to have red in your clock or level zone to play it as a counter, because counters, hopefully as you know, are played straight from hand to waiting room. So you don't actually have to have red to play it as the counter. So while I do have red in these Kyokos, it's not important for me to ever get red in my clock or level zone. Alright. Level 3, I'm running 3 of the Black Dress Homura, the 3/2 from the new set. This one, really great card. When it comes into play normally, when you play it from hand, you have to rest a character, then you get to draw 2, ditch 1. If it comes into play from the change, you don't have to rest a character. It just comes in, you draw 2, ditch 1. The draw 2, ditch 1, great effect, helps you to dig for its climax if you need to, or to get another one in hand. Its second ability is its climax combo with the gold bar, wherein when you play that, the gold bar, and this attacks, it gets, I believe, it's plus 2k power and clock shoot. So if you manage to get one of these out here and get it in front of the 15k assist, not 15k, 1500 assist, you're looking at, let's see, 10, 12, what was I about to say? Yeah, 12, 13, 5, 14, 5. So if it comes out early at level 3, there's usually going to be something in your opponent's field that you're going to be able to reverse and clock kick. Additionally, I'm running as my other level 3s the old Homura Clock Kick. These are actually the same card. This is the promo that only came out in Japan. Yeah, drop to 2, discard 1. Did I not say discard 1? Yeah. For her, draw 2, drop 1. Good for getting stuff out of your hand before a refresh as well. Great card overall. Now this is the promo Homura. I really like this card. I had these ones were released in Japan beforehand, and this one, same card, released as a box topper, different art. What this has going on for it is that on the turn it comes into play, it gains Clock Kick, pay 1, Clock Kick its opponent. The other interesting ability is that if you rest a character, you can give it 1500 power. So there was at least one game where I absolutely positively needed to Clock Kick my opponent's character. So I actually rested my back row, played over it, rested those as well. By the time it was done, she was swinging for like 17k. So this Clock Kick, if this one can't reverse something, and you have a lot of hand, and it's end of game, and you just absolutely positively need to get it dead, you can just start resting stuff and pump this up to ridiculous levels. So that's why I like it. Now, I'm also running as a 2 of the first set Sayakas. These ones, when they gain 500 for every other magic character, and they have heal on play. Kind of dated in what they do, but they heal on play. They're coming in, usually going to be at least 12k base. When they're reversed, they get sent to memory, which makes them prime targets for using Sayaka's Wish on, in case you don't necessarily want it to go to memory, or you know it's gonna lose. Sayaka's Wish it away, pick up from clock, heal yourself 1, and send it. I was playing the 3-2 combo Sayaka from the second set, the one that has an early play, where if you have 6 climaxes in waiting room, could come out early. I was never able to get that one to get its early play to come off, and I was never able to get any value out of it. So I switched it out for these two, and they seem to be working pretty well. For climaxes, just running the full spread of 4 gold bars, 4 stock souls. So you're almost always going to be able to build up stock. These gold bars shouldn't get stuck in your stock unless you blind stock into them. So that is one of the weaknesses of this deck, is the potential to blind stock stuff you need. So this combo with Madoka can blind stock. When you hit a gold bar, you have to blind stock. So that's the one thing to watch out for. So it's important. So it's important to keep.
Gold bars are May.
That is true, but it's gold bar. Okay, what Travis is saying is that you may put the top of your deck to stock, but it's going to hand is mandatory. Yeah. So it has to go to hand. So you either be losing out on the stock, or you just blind stock it. If you're keeping a good track of where your climaxes are, and you know you have your out 6, like you have 2 in your hand, you have 4 in your waiting room, and you're only potentially maybe blind stocking 2, you might as well just roll with it. Get a bunch in your stock, and then you're compressed so much that even though you might blind stock 1 or maybe 2 of your climaxes, if you can get the rest back into your waiting room before you refresh and you have a bunch of stock, you should be good, unless you run into one of those decks that makes you replace your stock from the deck and then, place your stock in the waiting room, then replace your stock from your deck, then you're just screwed. But hopefully you don't run into that. In any case, for a deck that I didn't even remember when I built it, it actually has been performing decently well. There may be a few tweaks yet, but that's the profile here for this deck. It doesn't have a name or anything, it's just blue, green, splash red. I'll figure out a name some other time, assuming I keep it up.
Those who'd like me to thoroughly explain the damn thing again. Alright, so I have a Abyssal Fleet deck here. Starting off for level 0s, I have 3 of these level 0s. They are 2/5. They're 2/5 basically on play. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a climax, choose one of your opponent's characters, give it minus 1,000 power, so you can wipe out the not Shimakaze, the whatever the annoying back row is in Kantai collection, or just get rid of assists on your opponent's side of the field with this. This card tends to combo well along with this card. Oh, I should probably move that back a little bit. This is a level 0 2K. When this card is played, you may look at the top card of your deck and either leave it there or put it to the bottom. And she also has a climax combo with the Stock Soul. When the Stock Soul is played, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Abyssal Fleet, which its entire deck is Abyssal, except for climaxes, this card gets 5,000 power until end of turn. You can combo this in with these cards, so where... Are you kidding me?
Was that out of the open box?
I'm about to say, if that was out of the open box, I'm crying right now. Yep, now I gotta restart the deck profile. Thanks, John! Oh well, I can just make one when I get home. It's no big deal. I'll trade for it. Where was I? Oh yeah. So you can combo this with this and not play the Stock Soul, or you can just play this out and get a boost if your opponent has a wall or something you just want to get off the field. I also have 2 of the Christmas Hoppo promos. I pulled 2 God packs, so I figured why not run them. They have... what just got pulled was an SP Ayumi. The SP Ayumi from Charlotte, level 0, Riki Clone, and Stock Troll. Look at this one. It is a Shift, level 0. I always get the ability wrong, so I'm not going to try and explain it. I'm just going to let someone in chat explain it. But if I remember correctly, this has to be the top card of your deck in order to do it. Or in order to switch out. That's what the translation says. And it's also a clock bomb as well. I run 3 of the Woe-class Searchers. Woe-class Searchers, beginning of climax phase, choose one of your Abyssal traits, give them 1,000 power, and pay 1 rest clock to search. I also run, for back row Searchers, 3 of these Brainstormers. These Brainstormers, 500 to the middle slot of your, or center slot of your front row, and pay 1 rest Brainstorm for each climax, search for an Abyssal trait. And to finish off for Searchers and Utility for level 0, I run 2 of the pay 1 ditch 1 Searchers. It's to help filter out my hand, because eventually I'm just going to get some of this stuff back anyways. Level 0 is based around just getting these 2 cards specifically in your back row, and then either depleting your, just killing things off in your opponent's field, overpowering them, or for sake of this as well, top checking. This also helps for top checking for this, so you don't clock a climax by accident. This card's just there because I don't want to run any walls in this. I just want to base it on utility, and plus I can just swap it out if I happen to draw into a level 3 that I don't want to play, or a higher level that I don't need in my hand at the current moment. And then the Stock Souls are always good, just no matter where they are. Even if it's level 3 or level 0, they're always good to have. That's it for level 0. I'm going to move on to level 1. Level 1, as for level 0 without the climax, that is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 cards. Obviously climaxes, I'm running 8 cards. I think that should be obvious. I'm going to move on to level 1. Level 1, I have 10 cards. Or no, level 1, I have 9 cards. Pretty sure I was running more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Okay, I thought I was just tripping. I run 3 of these. These are 105Ks and combo with, or they don't combo, but during your or your opponent's turn, when you discard a character from your hand, this card gains 2,000 power until end of turn. The discard is not a cost. I repeat that. The discard is not a cost. So you can play this backup, 1k backup, but if you have an Abyssal trait, you can give 1,000 power to a battling character, so it's practically a 2k. You can use these backups on these. Since this is a discard and not a resolution zone, since this is discard or waiting room, this gains the effect, so it's more of a 4k backup for this card specifically instead of a 2k. And then I run 4 of these level 0s. These level 0s are not levels, 4 of these 1/0s. These 1/0s are 6/5. They can't attack unless I have 2 more cards in my clock, which shouldn't be a problem with the WoW class Searcher in your back row, since you can just pay 1 clock, search, and build up your clock that way so you can attack with these. But these also serve another purpose, so I'm just going to leave these here for right now. These back up here, or just right there is fine. Because if that specific card is in your clock, you can drop these out at level 1. Because if this card is in your clock, this card gets -1 level in your hand, so it becomes a level. Becomes a 1/1/7/5 if this card's in your clock. And this has a climax combo with the gold bar. When the gold bar is in play and this card attacks, you can choose a card in your clock, add it to your hand, and put the top card of your deck into your clock, which also works with this because you can pay 1 clock, have another option with this card to grab, and then get something you need. So you're always going to have a hand size with this combo, which is pretty nice because you can dumb yourself down to like 1 hand at the start of your turn and then finish with like 8 cards in your hand. I don't know how, just I've done it before. And then I run 2 of these water Onis. These waters, they also come out early if I have a full field. Well, 4 or more Abyssal traits, they come out early. And they also have the same discard shenanigans as this level 1, except instead of a 2k boost, it's a 1,500 power boost. I run 2 of the global 1ks, and they also pay 2 rest to draw search for a character. I still prefer this, but this is nice if you have a ton of stock to blow and don't feel like taking damage. And then I also run 2 of the 3k backups. When these backups are played, your opponent has to mill 3. And since it's also a discard to waiting room, despite the fact that it's a pay cost, this gains its power boost, and the level 1 gains its power boost as well. So the power boost for level 1 would be a 5k, and the power boost for the level 2 would be a 4/5. That is it for level 2. On to level 3. Level 3, since we're on the theme of early plays, I run 3 of these early play healers. These early play healers, if I have 2 or less climaxes in stock, they get -1 level in hand. On play heal, obviously, and on defense, they gain 500 for every other Abyssal trait character. It's nice to heal off some damage that I've done with the WoW class Searcher or Refresh Point possibly, because these typically come out after I refresh. I run 4 Hoppo for the level 3 Hoppo because sign purposes. These Hoppos gain 1,500 power for if your entire level zone is Abyssal trait. Like I said, the entire deck is Abyssal trait, so that shouldn't be a problem. And on the turn it's played, you can, if it reverses its battle opponent, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do clock kick, no level restrictions on the clock kick. And then finishing out level 3, I run 1 Restander. I prefer the clock kicks because it's more definite damage compared to this because of its downside. I mean, if she's in my center stage, she's a 13k. If she's in my left or right, she's a 9k without counting assists. And she combos with the the Pants trigger, which is a 1k1. If it reverses battle opponent, pay 3, send the climax to waiting room, restand. Unless there's like a level 0 you can definitely get over and not worry about. Yeah, you can put it on your sides, but she shines better when she's in the center because with assists and her being in center and having a full field and the 1K1 or the 1K1 in play, she'll be 16K. Reverse your opponent. You don't have to care about power levels after that. 15K, and swing again. Plus the soul trigger will stick if you trigger a soul trigger when you attack with her. But she's one of those risky ones because typically I believe you want to attack last with her because you can keep this out longer for more damage. But at the same time, it also risks your sides getting reversed and making her weaker and not get the restand off. It just depends on the situation you're in, because if you want to push as much damage as possible, attack with her last because of the restand. But if you want to push a little less, you can attack with her first, get the climax out of the way, and then continue on attacking and not have to worry about her losing her power. This deck does rely heavily on a lot of early play conditions to stay strong because power levels are rather mediocre until they get to level 3. For the sake of, because, I mean, they got some Abyssals have some pretty nice abilities in itself, but with the fact with its power levels, it makes it a little harder to build, which is why the cards that involve discarding characters shine really well because they get extra power boosts from backups. So I feel Abyssal relies on a bunch of, like I keep saying, Abyssal, in my opinion, relies on a bunch of early plays just to keep field presence and just to keep pressure on your opponent. So I'm going to lay my deck out here again so you can get everybody can get a better look on it. All 50 cards, at least I hope. Yeah, I counted 50. Some substitutes I do believe that you can run. Yeah, I can't even fit this entire thing on the field, so we're just going to have some overlap. Some substitutes you can run. Someone did bring up an option yesterday in stream is to run the Musashis and a certain level 0 from Kantai Abyssals' second fleet. The reason I don't want to run that is because in order to play the Musashi, you have to have yellow in your clock. Since the only yellow is at level 0 and it doesn't have Abyssal trait, in my opinion, one of the better finishers in Abyssals you can't play because you won't get the extra power boost from having all Abyssals in your level zone. But you could also run the, instead of the Hoppos, because these can be rather expensive if you want the foil ones. But if you want the tournament ones, I think they're like $9 or something like that. You could run the 4K beaters, where if they're reversed, your opponent may put a card from your stock or from your waiting room to the top of your deck. So I'm not a fan of it, but I know that's a possible option out there. And you could even run it in place of these that I consider to be the beaters of level 0 because of their combo. Plus it being stock soul helps with compression, keeping this deck canceling at later levels if you can get these out. The pants help for climax consistency as well, despite running 2 of. But as for everything else, I believe in my opinion, this is pretty static for what Abyssals needs. I mean, I'm still play testing some of it, but this seems to be the build that I like myself, just for the sole fact I have my search options, which I enjoy. I always love having a hand presence. It also has its strong points where the mill 3 can help out. Like if your opponent's at 3-5, they're close to refresh, you can just mill their deck, cause them to refresh, and then you can easy pinpoint damage with the Hoppo. And plus, you can, if they're 3-6 and close to refresh, just play that and force them to refresh, and then win game. So I like this backup a lot more than the others. There is an anti-change backup that could be ran in this deck, but I'd rather have the power knowing that Abyssals doesn't have that big of a power jump or high power levels until you get to level 3. And that, I believe, is it for my Abyssal build. I will have this on paper format with a little more into detail. I will have this deck in a paper format on my blog, in a little more detail what needs to be done at each level, and also a better explanation on substitutions and why I don't run them, or possible substitutions that could work for this deck as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck build, and I think, is anybody else ready for another deck build? And we will have a deck build coming up, so hope you all enjoy.
Hello everyone on stream. I am William. I am the manager here at the Card Academy. Spend $100 or more on singles, and you can use the code PIMP to get 10% off your order. Spend $200 or more on singles, you can use the code MEGAPIMP and get 20% off. Isn't that nice? Get together, pool with your friends, and you can save yourself some monies. So, here today at Travis's request, I'm going to be showing off Stars and Lightning. It's my Nanoha X Fate build. So, let's go ahead and run through some stuff. The first one we have is our 4K Fate. She's a 4K, comes with the downside, of course. When she becomes reversed, put the top card of your deck into your clock. And we are running 3 of them. I was running 4 until just a bit recently. Decided that I was seeing her just a little too much. You know, she's kind of a pain to have in late game, because when you just need to throw stuff out to attack, that damage actually does hurt you. I still love her quite a bit. Let's see. So, here's your game. Let's go ahead and pull those out real quick. This will get a little faster as I go through these. Currently, this is an experimental build at level 1 and 0. The level 2 and the level 3 game is actually pretty well set. It's level 1 and 0 that I'm still having a hard time figuring out. So the next ones we have are the Fate. I believe this is Fate for her friends. This is Fate alternate doll. So on play, this Fate gets +1 level, +1k, so she's on level reverser color. And then when she's reversed herself, I could pay 1 to banish her to the memory, so she has incidental compression. The problem is that this deck usually doesn't have a lot of spare stock, because I don't run any of these stock souls or anything like that. So I rarely use her compression ability. Sometimes you'll just have a really slow level 0 game where you can just keep attacking and building if your opponent's stuck on level 0. And when you have that, get there. One of the core cards to the deck, Nanoha Sun Attack. We're running 3 of those. She is when she becomes reversed, that glare. When she becomes reversed, pay 1, drop 1, from your hand, banish her to memory. You can salvage a magic character back to your hand, so some more hand filtering. A lot of this build has a lot of hand filtering. A lot of the hand plussing comes from your blues. There's some experimental cards at level 0 that I'm taking a look at that we'll go over once I've got through these. This is one of my newer techs. It's a pseudo brainstorm, Nanoha and Fate. It's got 1500 power. It has pay 1, banish it to memory, and you get the pseudo brainstorm. Look at it up to the top 4 cards of your deck, and add a clone and or magic character. I want to say. I want to say clone and or magic character, because all the Fates have clone and magic, and all the Nanohas have magic and weapon. So the deck really wanted to brainstorm, but because the back row usually gets set between the 2 on Fate that we'll get to later, and usually a Shamal support that I've been running, I didn't have room in my back row to run a Brainstormer. So I like this as an incidental compression. It also works very well with the level 3s, because the Starbreaker Nanoha and the Plasma Breaker Fate both have, on play, discard a card with their name in it to get that effect. So cards with both Nanoha and Fate, and I'll apologize, I have a little bit of a sinus thing right now. So cards that have both Nanoha and Fate in the name can be discarded to either card effect and have a little more extra value. So the extra compression is nice. This is a card that I'm experimenting with at my level 0. This is I'm sorry, I actually can't remember the exact names of some of these cards. I actually have this one on my phone. Let me check real quick. But she's a 001K that says all Nanoha cards have Hand Encore. So stock light there helps keep my characters from staying reversed, albeit it eats my hand. And then on play, you can pay 1 to give a character +1 soul until end of turn. And this is Fate afterwards. Okay. So that's our level 0 game. One of the things that you can experiment with in this build is we have a 500 front assist fate. She also has hexproof, so like if you're worried about the new Hoppo combo that just kills level 0s, this is an assist that they can't get rid of, so that's what I'm trying out. This is also the potential Brainstormer that I'm thinking of experimenting running. She has an this is a fate that's 2k, on play gets 1500 until end of turn. So the turn that you play her, she can get over some stuff. And then she pulls double duty as her Brainstormer. She's a rest to pay 1. Brainstorm for every climax, search for a clone and or familiar card. So I'm not running this one because I do kind of like having my back row set to just having the 2 cards. One of them usually ended up being the 2/1 Fate Assist. The other being that it only searches for Fates, and there are times where I want a Nanoha card. My bread and butter back row, though, has been the supporting Shamal. She is a 500/00 in blue. She has a global 500 for magic characters on your opponent's turn. But what's really been tech about her is that you can pay 1 to choose a character. Your opponent can't play backups or events during that turn, so I've been using it to fight the Yamis, fight a lot of the backups that would mess up my power. Because the Nanoha decks, their gimmick is that they get really big on your turn, but become super easy to reverse on your opponent's turn. So the 500 global defense helps out with that. And shutting down the money bag event, any sort of backups that would screw with your thing, helps a lot. The problem is that it does eat stock. It's spammable, so you could do it for your whole row if you really needed to dodge that money bag. But it eats a lot of stock, and with the new Hoppo thing, I decided to try out some other things too. Really like the potential that the hand on court has. We'll see if the hand plussing has enough to save that. So that's our level 0 game. Next up is our level 1 game, which I'll pull out real quick. Alright. So first off, we're starting with a experimental singleton 1/0 1500 backup Fate. This is from a much older set, so not in the reprints. Most of the cards I have in this current deck are actually from the reprint set that came out 2014. There were a lot of really great and really staple cards to have in there, plus the new cards that came out. So if you want to get into Nanoha, it's a great set to buy into. This one was not in there, though I had to specifically order this one. When you use the backup and Nanoha is on the field, both players mill 3. So it's kind of a free Brainstorm, help to get some of that extra damage out. The deck really wanted a Brainstormer, but the stock just isn't there. So this is something I'm trying to experiment. Like I said, I'm still messing around with the level 0 and level 1 part of this deck. Level 2 and up is more or less set. Next we have some Nanoha beaters. I believe this is Nanoha as a senior. Every time another magic character attacks, she gets 1k. So she's just there for the beats, just there because she's a free 1/0. Another free 1/0 we have is the Nanoha Excel mode. She gets plus 1k if you have at least 300 magic characters, which I'll move this over here out of the glare. So she could be a 5/5 if you manage to get your field going. She also has Accelerate, give her plus 1 level and plus 3k. So she can attack as a potential 8/5 without any climax or support assist, as long as you have enough to fill your field. So she's very good at fighting level 2s when they don't have backups, which again the Shamal was helping to get rid of the backups, so you can do that. A lot of these cards are cards that you don't want to play when your opponent's a level behind you or actually matching level. You want to play your cards to match your opponent's level. So if I was level 1 and my opponent was level 0, I still want to try and fight level 0s to level 0s, because these guys are just for reversing their big things. So here's the other part that I'm messing around with currently. It's the new power Nanoha. She has an on play, give another magic character 1k until end of turn. At the beginning of climax, pay 1, banish into memory. She'll change into this Nanoha, which, there's my phone, I need to check the name. I know what all these cards do by heart, but the name gets by me a little bit. This is, let's see, Nanoha, it's going to be the next one. New power. I want to say it's Excellium mode, maybe? Either way, this is the one Nanoha that turns into it. Sorry. Apologize. As long as you have at least one magic character in memory, which these are, She will get +1 level and +1 K, so she's great to get around the level 1 reversers like the Kyoko from Rebellion. She also has, on the turn that she's played or comes into play from change, she gets top deck, so when she reverses her opponent, put that card on top of your deck. Right now I'm running these over the... She has a counterpart in Fate, which is Fate New Power. Her new power is exactly the same, and she goes into Fate Sonic Mode. Sonic Mode is a 6K base, but on your turn she gets an additional 1,500 if there's a magic character, and she just has Hand Encore. So I've been using Fate a lot. I needed to readjust the ratios a bit to get Nanoha's presence a little higher in the deck for when I wanted to use the Starbreaker Nanoha. The upside to this one is that in my meta there are a lot of clock encores, a lot of hand encore type things, so this Nanoha helps get around those. Like the Temporary Alliance Xenon clock encore can be a real pain, because that deck has a lot of natural hand plussing, so their current hand size, well, keeping attackers out for 1 point of damage, Nana helps deal with it. But if you deal with a lot of walls, and you just want to run stuff in there, the Fate one works just as well. This is just kind of a personal meta preference. And again, trying to keep the balance of Nanoha and Fate to about even, so that when we need to discard to the level 3s, we can typically get the ones that we want. So that's our level 1. So that's our level 1 game. And really, level 0 and level 1 have been the hardest to figure out for this deck, because the entire deck is built around the level 2 game. Start with the promos. I'm running 2 copies of the Fate and Nanoha 2-1 3K backup. This was a very expensive promo. I think $30 per copy. And again, the value comes from the fact that I can discard this to either Plasma Breaker or Starbreaker to get their effects. So there's a lot of times where I'll hold it, and either my opponent gets way too big to really make any use of this, or I don't actually side attack or anything to play around it, and then I end up using it to just discard to their effects. I'm not sure if I'm playing Plasma Breaker or Starbreaker. So the real meat of this deck and the real inspiration comes from the Fate Assists and this Nanoha. Get those up there. So you can see I'm running 3 copies of each, and they combo with the 1K1 gate, offense and defense of the battle. And this is the real bread and butter of the deck. This combo does something incredibly unique, in that when Fate is on the field, when you play the 1K1, you choose a trait among characters your opponent controls, and they lose that trait until the end of turn. So what we discovered was that when you got rid of the transformation trait from the Tolovu build, it actually shut off the Yami's hand core, because it only had hand encore if all the characters had housework and or transformation. Yami doesn't have housework, so just getting rid of transformation is enough to shut down the hand encore. She's also a front assist for cards with Nanoha and Fate in their name for 1,500, which means this Nanoha gets up to 9/5 with her Fate assist. Nanoha's effect also combos with the 1K1 gate, where she goes on attack, pay 1, look at up to the top 4 cards of your deck, and add a magic and or weapon character to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. And she gets an additional 2K. So just having 1 Fate out in this, she'll get up to 11K on her own and replace herself from your hand. Maybe this is the other reason that I don't run a brainstorm, is because this kind of is a pseudo brainstorm. Yeah, the assist gives Yami a hand encore for having transformation. You shut down the transformation and just poof, gone. There are of course other effects that say if all the characters you have this trait, then you get Expo's effect. Because Yami no longer has an effect, of course, they don't get that bonus. So it actually just has some incidental value there. And there's other sets that have stuff like that. Cards that get bonus for having an avatar and or net. Backups that say give your gifted characters extra power. So a lot of really incidental stuff. This is the only set outside of the caster from Fate Stay Night that I'm aware of that does this effect. So very super playable round. The Nanoha is a pseudo brainstorm, which leads into some awkward situations if you haven't counted your climaxes. If you have too many climaxes in your waiting room, sometimes if you need to go 4 deep to try and find what you want, it isn't as worth it. But this is a very powerful effect. I would say the thing about Nanoha that I believe this Nanoha build in particular wants to play at a level above what it says it is. These are pseudo level 3s when you get the climax combo off. The level 1s are pseudo level 2s when you're using their power boosting. Which means that the level 3s are pseudo level 4s when you get them going. So one of the things I was so you'll notice that I'm only running 2 of each, which a lot of people always give me the raised eyebrow when they see me. They're going like, okay, you always play like 3 of the Masashi Fate, right? And that's what I tried at first, but what I found was that made the deck too top heavy. One of the problems I've been having with the deck is that it's incredibly stock hungry. Hence the need to have a lot of 1-0s at level 1. The Nanoha Excel mode kind of throws it off a little bit, the changer throws it off a little bit because she does eat stock. Shamal was eating stock. Just to guarantee that there were no money bags, there were no backups that would mess with me. So I ended up cutting out to just 2 of each. And I believe the hand filtering is strong enough that I can get whichever one I want fairly regularly. 2 each ends up being more or less the right amount. It's a rare game where I go, okay, I actually just needed a 3rd Fate to get the Masashi Burn. So what do each of these do? So like I said, Masashi Burn Fate, that is an on-play. On-play, she gets the Masashi Burn where when her damage is canceled, you flip over the top card of your deck into your waiting room, deal damage equal to its level +1. But then she also has an on-play, pay 1, discard a card with Fate in her name, and she gets an additional soul, and you can bounce a cost 1 or lower character on your opponent's field to their hand. So a lot of times you can use that. So like again, if you're playing against Toloveru, you can use that to bounce the hand encore. You can bounce level assist, characters in the front row that you just want smaller characters to get through without having to suicide. And the +3 soul helps push the Masashi Burn. I mean, if it's 6, it's 3 damage. If not, it's a Masashi Burn. That's essentially an extra attack. The Nanoha, the Starbreaker Nanoha, she has an on-play, discard a Nanoha card, so no stock cost there. If you do, she gets +4k for the turn, and if she reverses her opponent, burn 1. But she has another nifty feature where if she's front attacked, you can pay 2 to put her on top of your deck to burn 1. So usually it's a last-ditch effort. If your opponent's sitting at 3-6, they can't front attack her. If they have a clock kick and they're always swinging for some amount of damage, it's a way to get around that. I haven't had a situation where I do get into situations where it's clear that one is better than the other. Hence why I'm still... But I never get into too many situations where it's like, okay, this is just a dead card. Because sometimes I just need to reverse their level 3 and get rid of it. Or I just need to get rid of their level assists. So, I'm still very happy with the spread I have now. 2 and 2 has been just enough for me. The 1k1 is also a gate, so that adds to the hand filtering a lot. The weakness of this deck comes from the fact that sometimes it just eats your stock too heavily, or it eats your hand too heavily. So it's a very glass cannon type of deck. They get to ridiculous power levels on your turn, but the staying power is a little lacking. And finally, we have just 4 copies of 4 Hayate plus 2 Soul. I've been having some trouble with the other climax half of the deck. You can run the stock Soul, you can run the 1k1 win trigger, the 1k1 crit trigger. What I find though is that before I put these in, I was finding that I was just falling way too far behind on damage. Part of that's my mismanaging of my climaxes. But the +2 soul has been essential for pushing your opponent, making sure that the damage keeps going, and keeping them on par with you. Because if they're at level 2 and you're at level 3 and you're looking to play your Starbreaks or your Masashi Burn Fates, you've essentially lost. It's not impossible to come back from that, but it's incredibly hard So I feel the +2 soul is essential for this particular build because you need to get the most out of every one of your attacks. And if they're forcing out climaxes, fine. They're forcing out climaxes for damage later. But the important thing is the push damage, because this wants to be a very aggro deck. It wants to keep your opponent on level with you, if not ahead of you on damage and levels. So that's been the Stars and Lightning build. It's still a process. I'm still experimenting with a lot of things. Like I said, the level 1 and the level 0 game are still very much in a tuning phase. The level 2 and the level 3 game are very much set. I'm very happy with the level 2 and level 3 game. I just got to figure out the early parts to help set up that point. And the +2 soul is going to be a big part of that. So this has been the Nanoha Stars and Lightning deck take build. Thank you very